Check out this sweet new lav mic. I don't know how this is going to sound for vlogging, but I'm going to give it a test. So this rant might end up being kind of all over the place and incoherent, but I wanted to attack some leaps in logic that I tend to see a lot of. And to begin with, I'm going to talk about children's shows and what they are. Because most of the kids' shows that I've seen are very abstract. They feature characters who are often like animals, who are kind of unreal and not human. They have very simplistic, easily understood personalities. You know, they don't really act like real people. What they're there for is to be easy to understand and easy to empathize with and easy to, to teach little kids things with. If you have a character who's extremely uncomplicated, extremely basic, their facial expressions are easy to read, their actions follow a very clearly understood logic, then it doesn't take too much thought to keep up with what's happening. You can easily parse what's going on and follow the narrative. This makes sense because children can't keep up with all that more advanced stuff, You're trying to get a child to learn some basic shit from watching a kid's show, and it's helpful if it's easy for them to understand. So as we get older, we can understand more and more intricate stories, more and more realistic characters. But there's this weird leap in logic that seems to happen with a lot of people, where because of that, because we can understand more intricate stories, we therefore must like those kind of stories. Like that because you've grown older, because you now are capable of understanding more deep, more intricate stories, you're weird if you don't like those stories, and if you still like simple stories, if you like stuff that maybe isn't as deep or complex. I find this leap in logic to be weird, because this is all a matter of taste. Like, deciding that you love deep, intricate stories is like a personal thing. It's something that you decide you're into. You get into it when you grow up. Like, okay, a lot of people don't know how to read Shakespeare, but it's not as though if I learn how to read Shakespeare, I now automatically am going to love Shakespeare and only want to read Shakespeare as opposed to whatever I was able to read and understand before. We get to this weird point where because people feel like they've maybe achieved something intellectually by being able to understand more advanced concepts and stories, they then don't understand why anyone wouldn't want to like those things. Like they seem to feel like anyone who likes something that's less advanced must be less intelligent, or must be more childish, or must just be deviant in some way. How could you possibly like things that are not complicated when you have the brain power to appreciate something complicated? And the answer, of course, is simply that it's a matter of personal taste, and everyone comes to different things for different reasons. Now, personally, I think there's sort of a limit to how complicated a story can even really get, or how deep or how intricate a story can even really get. Because while the universe and humans and the world, it's all very chaotic and there's lots of things going on, lots of interactions happening every second, everything in the environment is affecting everything else in the environment, and it's all very complicated, the logic and reasoning behind why things happen is pretty simple, right? Like, when you think what motivates people, well, obviously the most basic motivations are food, love. Everyone appreciates love stories because basic instinct, sex drive, and stuff like that takes us in that direction. It's something that almost everyone has, almost everyone gets it, And then when you get into more complex emotions, like maybe envy or desire to have certain things, when you get into situations where getting what you want is more complicated, where there's factions and there's drama, all of that can make a story more intricate and advanced. But it always follows the same logic. It's always about characters having these certain motivations that we all get, because we're all humans, we're all motivated by essentially the same things, and, acting out of those desires. You can make the plot as convoluted as you want, but what it always comes down to is the same basic messages, the same basic themes, If you if you made a list of like every human emotion and then every sect of philosophy, then you've basically got all of storytelling. Like it's all either about, you know, stuff that everyone goes through or broad ideas about the world, and there's like a limit to them. There's only so many things you can explore before it becomes totally alien and unrelatable, and that's where you enter the realm of like art house, where you're expressing something that nobody gets because it's not a universally held emotion, and that kind of stuff tends to be less popular. So I feel like there's this weird perspective where it's like, shouldn't you constantly be looking for something more intelligent? And it's like, once you reach the most intelligent thing, then where do you go from there? Why do you always have to consume those things when there's so much to offer from stuff that's totally different, you know? Maybe something can be incredibly simple, but it appeals to a certain emotion that, while easily understood and, you know, not complicated, is nonetheless something you enjoy feeling. I bring this all up because I find it so weird when people say things like, you know, how can you like this show? It's for kids. Or how can you like this show? It seems stupid. Why aren't you watching this other intelligent show? And all I can think is, why would that one offer me something more? Just because I'm intelligent means I have to like shows that you can only understand if you're intelligent? I don't get this leap in logic. Why does my taste have to follow suit with how smart I am? Why, as an adult, do I have to enjoy things that only adults can understand? Why can't I also enjoy things that I would have been able to understand as a child? Why can't I enjoy things that are maybe just dumb, you know, as long as they have something that draws me to them? So when I see arguments against things like, for instance, shows about cute girls doing cute things, because that's the biggest enemy of people who love plot-driven anime, which I'm an anime guy, so that's the community I'm a part of, you know. People who love plot-driven shows don't understand people who don't like plot-driven shows. But it's all just a matter of taste. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person, you know? People of every stripe, of every level of intelligence, of every level of, you know, social ideas enjoy dumb shit sometimes if it has something that appeals to their sensibilities. So that's why I just don't get it. I don't get why it's so hard to grasp that someone intelligent can like something that's not super intelligent. Like, somehow I'm always meant to be flexing every part of my brain. Like, if a show's not making me think about 10 different things and keep track of all these different characters and relationships, and if it doesn't speak to the dark themes of the world and remind me of how life is meaningless and everything is, you know, everything's bleak and dark, if it doesn't make me think about that stuff, then what could I possibly get out of it? Maybe I get out of it that it looks cool, and I like looking at things that look cool. I don't think it's like insulting to my intelligence to not constantly be indulging in things that are like, whoa, mind-blowing, you know? Because at the end of the day, nothing's that mind-blowing. Nothing is really so far above everything else. That's why I made that whole video about, like, is anything really deep? Because when you get right down to it, every time I've ever read something deep or looked at something deep, it always conveys the same themes I'm already familiar with from every other deep thing. Because we have kind of just, as a society, decided which things are deep, which is basically stuff that takes, like, a little bit more knowledge to understand. If you have to, like, grasp the concept of philosophy to understand it, then it's deep. Because a child couldn't understand that. But why does liking something deep then, like, exclude me from liking stuff that's not deep? I don't get that. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.